The bank notification arrived on my phone at 4:23 in the afternoon. A standard transaction alert, the kind I had set up years ago precisely because I preferred to know immediately when anything moved through our joint account. And I read it lying in a hospital bed, 6 hours after delivering my son, with my husband James beside me and our newborn on my chest, and I read it twice before I understood what it was telling me. Transfer initiated, $67,400. Joint savings to external account. Authorization code JH4471. $67,400. The entirety of our joint savings account. 3 years of combined savings. The down payment fund for the house we had been planning to buy in the spring. The emergency buffer we had built specifically because we were about to become parents, and parents need buffers. Gone. In a single transfer. Initiated at 4:23 p.m. on the day I was delivering our child. The authorization code contained James's initials. James was sitting 14 inches from me. He had not left the room in 6 hours. He had been holding my hand since noon. I turned my phone to show him the screen. He looked at it. He looked at me. He looked at the phone again. My parents have my mobile banking login, he said, in the specific quiet of someone who has just understood something terrible. I gave it to them last year when Dad was in the hospital, and I needed them to pay a bill for me while I was at work. I never changed it. I looked at my son on my chest. I looked at my husband. I looked at the notification on my phone. Call Sandra, I said, right now, from this room, while I hold our son. Before I tell you what Sandra found when she traced that transfer, and what James's parents had apparently planned to do with $67,000 taken from their son's account on the day of his child's birth. Tell me, where are you watching from right now? What time is it? I read every comment, and I want to be clear before we continue. This is a work of fiction written for entertainment. The names, the people, the events. None of it is real, and any resemblance to anyone living is entirely coincidental. My name is Anna Chen. I'm 31 years old, and for 4 years I've been married to a man named James, a financial analyst, careful with numbers in the professional sense and considerably more trusting in the personal sense, which is a combination that works beautifully in a marriage and had, until the afternoon in question, never created a problem between us. James's parents, Howard and Gloria, were 65 and 63 respectively. Retired, geographically close, and possessed of the specific quality of parental involvement that had been, across 4 years of our marriage, the source of more quiet friction than any other single element of our life together. Howard and Gloria had a particular framework for money, one I had identified early and navigated carefully, which was that financial assistance flowed in one direction, and that direction was toward their son, regardless of whether their son had requested it, because in their understanding of family, unilateral financial management was simply an expression of parental care. They had lent James money twice before our marriage. Not large amounts, but amounts that had come with the particular strings that money sometimes carries when it comes from parents who believe that giving something creates ongoing authority over the recipient. James had repaid both loans. The authority had not departed with the repayments. I had, in 4 years of careful navigation, managed to keep our joint finances separate from Howard and Gloria's sphere of involvement. Until the morning, James had needed someone to pay a bill while he was at work, and his father was in the hospital, and the path of least resistance had been to give his parents his mobile banking credentials. That had been 14 months ago. James had never changed the password. I had not known the credentials had been shared. And on the afternoon of our son's birth, Howard and Gloria had used those credentials to transfer our entire joint savings, $67,400, out of our account. The destination account, traced by Sandra within 48 hours, was a personal savings account in Howard and Gloria's names. The transfer had been authorized using James's legitimate credentials. Not hacked, not fraudulently obtained in the technical sense, but used without James's knowledge or consent on a day specifically chosen. Sandra's investigator would later establish, because Howard and Gloria had known from James's communication with them in the days leading up to the birth that James would be entirely occupied and unlikely to monitor his phone. They had timed it for the delivery, what they had intended to do with the money. This was the question James and I spent several hours discussing before Sandra's formal process answered it. Became clear when Sandra's investigator reviewed Howard's communications. Howard had, in the weeks preceding the transfer, been in correspondence with a financial advisor about a real estate investment opportunity that required an immediate capital injection of approximately $70,000. His own funds were insufficient. The investment had a deadline. He had not asked James. We would have said no. The money was our down payment fund. It was not available. The answer would have been a clear and simple no. Howard had apparently understood this and had decided, in the particular, breathtaking logic of someone who has confused parental authority with legal authority, that the money was effectively family money, and that accessing it without asking was simply a timing efficiency rather than a theft. Sandra described this to me, in her characteristic direct way, as one of the cleaner cases of theft by family member I've seen, insofar as the motivation is entirely clear and the documentation of intent is extensive. The $67,400 was reversed within 72 hours. The same compressed timeline Sandra achieved in cases where the documentation was unambiguous and the receiving institution cooperated promptly with the fraud designation. Our bank's fraud team, presented with the evidence that the transfer had been unauthorized, processed the reversal with the efficiency of a team that understood what they were looking at. The down payment fund was intact. Our son's emergency buffer was intact. The house we were planning to buy in the spring was still a plan that was going to happen. The criminal process was more complicated, in the way that criminal processes involving family always are. Not because the evidence was ambiguous, but because James was, fundamentally, someone who loved his parents and was sitting with the specific devastation of having discovered that two people he loved had stolen from him on the day his child was born. James handled it himself. He called his parents the day after we came home from the hospital. Our son, 4 days old, sleeping in the bassinet in our bedroom. And he had the conversation that he told me afterward he had been composing in his head for 3 days. He told them what had been reversed. He told them what Sandra had established about the timing and the intent. He told them that the decision about whether to pursue criminal charges was his to make, and that he was choosing not to make it immediately, and that the price of that choice was a complete, documented financial separation between our household and theirs. No shared credentials, no financial entanglement of any kind, no access of any type to any account in either of our names, now or in the future. Howard began to speak. James said, "Dad, I need you to listen." Howard listened. The financial separation has held. Howard's investment opportunity, the one that had apparently been worth stealing from his son's account on the day of his grandchild's birth, did not proceed. Sandra's investigator established that the opportunity had closed before the reversal was complete, which meant Howard had neither our money nor the investment. There is a specific justice in certain outcomes that requires no additional commentary. Our son is 7 months old. He sleeps in the pattern of someone who has decided that 4 a.m. is a reasonable time to begin the day, which is, honestly, a personality trait that I both recognize and respect, even while it costs me sleep. James sees his parents monthly. The visits are cordial, structured, and conducted with the specific, careful distance of people who have had something happen between them that cannot be undone and are navigating, slowly, what remains on the other side of it. Gloria sent a card for the baby's first month. It said, "We love him so much." I believe her. I believe both of them, in some fundamental sense, love James and our son. I believe Howard thought he was solving a problem rather than stealing from his child. I also believe that love is not a defense for taking $67,000 from your son's savings account on the day his child is born. Those two things are both true at the same time. I have found, across the past 7 months, that holding both of them simultaneously, without resolving one into the other, is simply what this situation requires. Do you think James made the right decision not to pursue criminal charges? Or would you have insisted on formal prosecution regardless of the family relationship? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, subscribe to the Family Ledger for a brand new story every single day. Hit that bell. You do not want to miss what is coming next.